Hello, good evening. I hope you can all hear me. I'm Mike Williams, Vice Principal from West Island School. If I'm looking a bit sweaty and hot, I've just been down with some of your students, some of your children at the track, so forgive me for that. I'm actually still wearing my running shorts, but I thought I'd put a shirt on for Zoom purposes. So without further ado, let me get into what we're going to talk about tonight, which is going to be about the baseline data that I shared with you about a week and a half ago. So what we're going to look at today is the YELIS baseline data that all Year 10 students complete, how we use that data in school with your children, also for looking at the performance of the school as a whole, and how we can use it in tracking performance of your children and looking forward to how they're going to improve their performance later on. So here I've given you a bit of an assessment timeline. By the way, I forgot to say, if you have any questions, then you can see there's a Q&A down at the bottom there. Just click the Q&A, and when I finish the presentation, I'll take a look and answer some of those questions. I'm flying solo tonight, so you'll have to give me some time to answer them at the end, to have a look through them, and I'll answer them all live. I did receive some questions by email, and I'm going to go through those as I go through the presentation. So there's a bit of a timeline about what's going to happen during Year 10 and 11 for your children. Obviously, now we're in October. We've started the process of collecting the YELIS data, the baseline data, and starting to get your children to work on their target grades and teachers to look at their working at grades. I'll be going through those in detail throughout the presentation.
Sorry, Mike, can you just share the screen once again? Okay. Share your, yep.
Can you see that, BJ?
Oh, yeah. Yep. It's good. Good.
Okay, thank you. So on the 7th of December, you'll have a chance to talk to the teachers of your children on our Zoom Parents Evening. So what I want you to think about then is looking at the target grades that your children have set, looking at their baseline data and looking at the working at grades. So they should all be ready by the 7th of December. That's my target really for everybody involved in the process. So you can have an informed conversation by the 7th of December. And then as the process goes through, you can see there are other target dates there as we move throughout Year 10 and Year 11 leading up to the GCSE exams. So I'll tell you a bit about the YELIS test that your children did at the start of the year. It's run by Cambridge Assessments. Lots of many years of data, many millions of students have gone through this in many countries. They've got a huge data set to work with. So what we use it for is we look at the strengths and areas for improvement for your children. Are they stronger in one area or the other area? Have a look at what their potential is, and we can use it to do what's called value-added reports, which are saying here's the baseline. So how did we perform against the baseline? So what we don't use it for is we don't report to other schools or reference other schools or universities and use this data. This data is just for internal use, for helping your children. And we don't use it to grade students. The grading is whatever is done within the lesson and obviously for homework, but we won't ever use these the YELIS data or any baseline grades to grade your students. They are just a piece of information which we find quite useful. That word there, developed potential, I'll try and explain what I mean by developed potential, is that your children all have a potential. They've got potential to score certain grades. Whether they do or not is really up to them, how much effort they're going to put in there. So they've got potential to achieve something. The potential is not fixed. There's a lot of studies on this. They can develop their potential. A really good example of this is someone who doesn't read very much. They have a low developed potential when it comes to vocabulary, writing essays, using language in the correct way. So if they read more, they learn more language, and then their developed potential increases because they've got a higher potential. Now they can use more and more vocabulary. So when you're seeing these baseline scores, it can be developed, and they do change throughout the school, because your children would have done the MIDIAS test in year 7, they'll do the YELIS test in year 10, and they'll do the ALICE test in year 12. So there are ways to develop this potential. So the components that we use are vocabulary, maths, and patterns. Another word for patterns really is non-verbal. So vocabulary, I'm going to show you some examples in a minute. I'll show you some examples of all of them and talk about them when I do that. Because there's millions of hundreds of thousands of students around the world doing the same test, we can use it as a standardized baseline to compare against other students throughout the world. So this is a CAB-T test, a computer adaptive baseline test, which means it's much better than a paper test because the difficulty of the questions changes depending on how the student answered the subsequent question. The previous question, sorry. So if they got the previous question wrong, the questions will get easier. If they get it right, the questions will get harder. And then the computer algorithm works out after many, many questions, in this case, 23 questions, the computer algorithm works out where their score is. And it works out tolerance. So it works out roughly between what scores your children are. And it won't stop the program until it's pretty sure it's got the right value. That's taking into account that we assume that the students actually tried hard on this test or tried their best. If they didn't, then obviously we're going to get a score which isn't quite correct. There is no way to fluke a high score because they'd have to keep getting it correct, fluking it correct, getting it correct by chance, and that's just not going to happen over several questions. So it's a really accurate way of measuring developed ability. Now let's see if this works. VJ, do we have the poll ready to go? So all I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some questions. Hopefully these are in the right order, and hopefully the polls pop up on your screen and you'll see whether you can answer it correctly or not. So we'll try it with this one. So what you've got to do, this is the vocab part of the test. And you've got to guess which of those words on the right, I can see the polls popped up, most closely matches the one on the left. So if you think about it, it's about words here out of context. Now, to really understand the meaning of a word, you're going to have to read it in several contexts in books because it can be used in many different contexts. So then when you've read it several times, you come to the meaning of the word in your head, because it's hard to, even if you're translating from a different language, it's hard to do exactly what does that word mean. So let's see, VJ, let's see what the answers were. We got that? Okay, cautiously. Okay, correct. Well done. Well done. 80% of you got it right. So you're, let's get the next one. Oh, gave you the answer. I hope you didn't see that one. I'll be really quick on this one. So that was a kind of medium difficulty question. If you'd have got that wrong, it would have got easier. It does get very easy. Let's assume we all got this one correct. VJ? VJ's helped me out in the background here. 10% you thought it was a shrimp. Never mind. It's a crab. Okay, crab is the answer. So you get the right, it gets a bit more difficult. So would your children be able to get this right? So medium to hard difficulty, I'd say. Okay, VJ. Okay, so half you said friendless and half you incomparable. Incomparable. Well done to the 5 of you got that correct. Ready for the next one? And this will be a really difficult one. I'll be very impressed if anyone gets this correct. Okay, VJ. Did anyone answer it? 2 people got it correct. Well done. Give yourselves a pat on the back if you are those 2 people. It means easy job. I'd have never have known that if I hadn't done this presentation a few times already. So you can see that vocab, you really need to understand the meaning of the words. And then go into maths. And the maths questions test not what they've learned in maths classes, but really their fluency in maths. How quickly can they work with number? Because this is not seeing how well they'll do in maths, it's seeing how they do with number. If you like, the vocab is the literacy and this is the numeracy. There are a lot of subjects where you have to be fluent with number, with calculations. My subject, physics, is very, very true. You need to be fluent with number, but not just my subject, you need to be able to work out percentages, for example, in many different subjects and understand those. So let's have a go at this. So 10% of 7,900, VJ. Well done, 93%. Hopefully you got it right. So it gets a little bit harder. Well, this isn't hard actually, is it? VJ, let's have the question. What fraction of the circle? I think we can go straight away with this. Assumedly, most people will get this correct. Okay, VJ. Okay, so 58% of you, 2/3 on the bottom diagram. Now you can see this is gets harder. Can you work with fractions? Give you a little bit more time with this. Okay. Okay, VJ. So 1.5 is 6/4. So you need to add 1/4 or 1/4. Good. 80%. Excellent. I hope you're having as much fun as I am. Can we work with geometry? So what is the size of the angle Y? Can you remember how many degrees in a triangle? Okay. It's quite a straightforward one. 67% of you, 35 degrees. Well done. So this is done without a calculator. And again, this is what I'm talking about, fluency here. Can you work this out in your head by having a few tricks? 15 is divisible by 3 and 45 is divisible by 3. 15 divided by 3 is 5. 45 divided by 3 is 15. 515. Oh, they're all 515. 1, 2, 3. So the answer, 60% of you. Well done. Very numerate audience out there today. And some functions. Work out the value of P. Okay, VJ. Only 2 people went for this, but 100% got it right. So this one here is if you try this first column in the function there, m, if m equals 0, that means q to the m is 1. So if q to the m is 1, that means if fm is 2, p must be 2. Don't know if you followed that at all. Real problem solving. So there's not an unlimited time. There's a certain time limit that your children have to do these questions, and they all have to be done mentally. Okay, VJ? So we got 2 people thinking it's one person 500. Okay. Let me know in the Q&A if you got every one of these right. I think it should work out how much percentage yet. Anyway, you can go through the video later to work that out. So that was maths, and you've got some now patterns. Now, you know, a lot of people find these quite easy, but some people don't, and they can't work out in their head how to reflect this, for example, in a mirror, and what will it actually look like. Why we're testing pattern is because a lot of subjects use patterns. Again, my subject science uses a lot of graphs and charts. They contain patterns, and it's that pattern recognition which is important, or non-verbal, or pattern recognition is important in terms of learning. You can think about how important in terms of like design, looking at patterns and turning them around. So let's see which one we're going for. So 5 of you, a lot more people back in now. The maths has gone. So most of you top right. Okay, good. Rotational patterns. 90 degrees rotation. Bet you never thought you'd have so much fun on a Tuesday evening. Okay, VJ? Everyone 3 out of 3 got it, get it right. And matching pictures. Now, these are important as well, this kind of pattern recognition and matching pictures, because it shows a strong visual memory or working memory. And remember, your children have got to do exams, so that they read an exam question somewhere and they move and answer it somewhere else. They've got to retain in their mind what they read over on the other page. So this is what's called working memory or visual memory. Okay, BJ? Okay, we're getting a lot more people in. Number 4, let's see if it's right. Start. I think we finished there with a bang. But well done, everyone. Let me know if anyone all the questions right, and I'll send a prize to you. Okay, so what happens with the scores? Well, after your children have completed that test, it takes about half an hour to 3/4 an hour, depending how long it takes for the converging to a correct score. So they get scores in maths, vocab, and patterns, and an overall score. The scores are standardized against everyone who does this test in the world to 100. So 100 is average, is the standardized score. 150 is the highest possible score. And you can see there between 90 and 110, that is 50% of students lie between 90 and 110. So 25% of students above 110, 25% of students below 90. At West Island School, we're very lucky because our average score is around about 110. So that shows you the ability of our students is very high. And I spoke to your children last week saying to them, if your score is 100 and you feel like you're behind everyone, you're not. You're right, smack bang in the middle. What they would say is, because it's a UK-based test, and most of the schools who do this in the UK or run a UK curriculum-based curriculum, like we do at GCSE, it's standardized against the average UK student. In fact, we do something slightly different to that, which I'll go on to in a minute. I'm going to show you examples, some IPRs which I sent you, individual pupil records. So I want you to have a look at the examples and think about what impact that might have on your child's progress or how they learn. So this would be something hopefully you've seen these IPRs for your child. That would be something for the average UK student. As I say, average WID student somewhere around about 110, 108, 110. And highly able student. Percentiles, by the way, just go back here. You can see the percentiles at the bottom if you don't know. Percentile, 78 percentile means that you're better than 78% of students doing this in the whole sample. Means you're in the top 22% of students in the standardized sample, the UK-based sample. There'll be a highly able student. Well done if your child is in the 90s percentile, even 99 or even 100 percentile. I know there's some of you out there with those scores. I'd say 150 is the highest. Don't worry about band or stay 9. We don't really use those. So this one here, I want to mention this one. This is a really good example. Just go back a couple of slides and show you this here. I've sent you, I think I've sent you anyway in the information, this guide to interpreting IPRs. So it gives you lots of different examples of these IPRs and find the one that is most like your child's to help you understand it. And what we're looking for is when there's a gap between the confidence bars of especially the vocab and maths, but also the non-verbal. So these are the two most important. Again, I mentioned literacy and numeracy. Fluency with maths and understanding words, or be able to use words in the correct context. So this one, we have a lot of students actually. This could be two cases here. When I look at, I see an IPR like this, it's usually one of two things. When the vocab is much lower than the maths, you see 36 percentile and 98 percentile for maths. We have an awful lot of students working in their second, third, and fourth language, which is, I find, absolutely astounding. And all teachers here are aware of a lot of our students are working in several languages. So you can imagine that their vocab scores will be quite low compared to their classmates when they come into year 10. But I assure you, we have a look at the data when we go through to the end of year 11, and they massively outstrip their baseline data because their vocab increases massively when they go through the EAP or the WISCAL programs at West Island School and develop their vocab. It's extremely important to develop this vocab because you're doing exam questions that require completing essays, and it's important that you're using the correct words in the correct context, because that's what you're going to get marks for in the exam. So that's one way. It's either a student who's working in a second, third language and is developing their English skills. The other case is if they're not that particular profile of a second, third language learner and they are first language English, I always ask one question. I said, how much do you read? And every single time, without fail, I don't read. So this is why reading is so important, especially around the age your children are now, because you're reading same words in different contexts. Then you'll understand that word, and then you can use that word in your exams or in your coursework. And that's so important. It's literacy. So if you're sitting there saying, oh, my child, or if the child is sitting with you is not reading, then that's very important. They should be reading, and they should be reading appropriately challenging text where they do come across new words quite regularly, and then try to work out what that word means so they can increase their vocabulary. The maths, it's about fluency in maths. Just practice, do some maths every day. The thing is, whichever one of these is lower is your limiting factor. So that's the thing that's going to hold you back. So that's the thing you should work on. So if they're pretty even, everything's great. You can work on both. But you should, what we find is that students are really good at maths, but got low vocab, tend to want to do more maths. Great, they do more maths, but they really need to focus on that vocab and bring those vocab scores up. Patterns, it's just doing more patterns, not to say dot to dot, not at your age, things that with their spot the difference, stuff like that. It's just pattern recognition, practicing, getting your brain to work with this visual memory, remembering how things look over here and look over there. That's all you can do to practice that. How can we use it? If students are strong in patterns, then maybe they should be doing more charts rather than, for example, if you're in history and writing out a particular emperor or king and comparing two of them, maybe instead of writing down the information, you want to put the information in a chart. Because if you've got a high pattern score, you're good at charts, you're good at recognizing charts, and it will be easier for you to fill in that chart and think about graphic organizers when you're revising. So there's lots of things to look at when you see your profile. This overall score comes from a combination of the vocab and maths. It's not an average, it's called a ranked average. So if you're high in both, it will be even higher in this overall score. And this overall score is what we use to then make the GCSE baseline predictors, which I'll go on to talk about now. This is just the opposite: high, low maths, high vocab. Okay, this is important. I want to emphasize this chart because I know that a lot of you have concerns that your children's baseline predictors are lower than you think they'll actually get. It actually doesn't matter. Let me tell you what that baseline predictor is showing. So this chart shows it really well. So what we do, what Chem do, is they take all of the data, from all students who have done this, and they say, okay, look at this student here. This student here has got an overall score of 109 on the vocab and maths. They're much more better in maths than they are, sorry, in vocab than they are in maths, but average is 109. And they only use the average score, not the math score, not the vocab score, but they only use the overall score to calculate these predicted grades. So there's something there which might not be quite correct. We'll come back to that. If the overall score here is 109, they look at all students who have ever done, in this case, English language GCSE, and have got 109 on the baseline test, and then say, what happened? What are the outcomes? What did they get finally in their GCSEs? Well, 37% of them got a B, but 8% of them got an A star. So it's not saying if your baseline grade says a B, it's not saying you'll get a B. It's just saying that's the average grade that students got with the same baseline score as you. But you can still get an A star. You might have to work very hard to get that A star, but it's totally achievable. Now, I had a question by email saying, what's the variance of the score? If they've got, for example, in this case, a B, could it be an A star, or could it be an A? Could it be a D? Could it be an E? Yes, it can be. And on average, students are 1 grade away from their baseline score. On average, we have a lot that are 2 grades away, even some that are 3 grades away, even some that are 4 grades away. People predicted maybe 3 grades, probably 4 grades, pushing it a little bit more, but I'm sure there have been cases. So what will you see when you go onto Farm here? You'll see in the grade summary on Farm, here's the symbol for Farm here, you'll see you've got the ability baseline here. This one example I've used is quite high, and it gives the baseline in each subject using the method I've just talked about. Now, what we're asking your children to do at the moment, I spoke to them a couple of weeks ago about this, is they're going to come up with target grades. I'll talk about that in a minute. And then the teachers are going to put in working at grades where they think your children are at the moment. Oh, just a little slides got mixed up a little bit. If you don't understand A's and numbers, letters and numbers, it's because we've got different exam boards. UK exam boards all have a 1 to 9 scale, but the Cambridge exam board that we use, the international exam board, that uses still an A star to G grade. So some of your subjects, these are Cambridge with letter grades, and these are EdXL or AQA with number grades. So hopefully that's not too confusing there. So let's go back to this target grade. So I've asked your children to start setting their target grades. What do they use to do that? Well, they can, if they want, use their baseline ability grade. They don't have to. I don't really mind what they put as their target grade. If they want to be aspirational and put A stars and 9s for every subject, that's absolutely fantastic. It shows aspiration. But what do target grades do? Why are we bothering doing them? What significance have they got? Well, studies show it has a massive effect on student performance when students are involved in setting their own target grades. Meta studies over many years have shown if you involve a student in their own setting of grades, they start getting interested in what's the difference between an A and an A star, what's a B. So they start having conversations around the assessment criteria. And this is so important to put the student right at the center of their learning, rather than just sitting a test, getting a grade, and then doing some more work, sitting another test. So actually analyze what it is they need to do to get to the next level, to involve students in that process. Also, don't use the baseline grades for everything, because you may have certain talents in subjects like music that are put there. You may be particularly talented, and what's your literacy and numeracy telling you about your musical ability, or maybe your language ability. Maybe you speak French at home or with family, and you're doing French GCSE. So obviously you're going to have a head start in there. So there's many factors which go into deciding what the target grade will be. And the baseline ability grade, it's just an indication of what other students got in this subject who had the same ability baseline grade as you. So what will happen is the teachers will start putting the work in at grades, should be by the end of this month. I think just a week or two's time is the deadline for doing that. And that will give you an indication of where your children are working at now. And what we're trying to do is get the teachers to make sure the grade that they enter is more like, if you're in the US, a grade point average, that the grade didn't change significantly on test to test. So we've had issues in the past where students have been maybe on a level 7, and then they do really badly in a test and get a level 3. Now, we don't want the level 7 to go down to a level 3, because for you, that's going to be quite distressing. My child's doing absolutely fine, then suddenly, wow, down to a level 3. So it should be more smooth than that. And we're working with teachers to make sure that that happens. So you can see here an example. This is a real example from last year, how the student started in October last year in year 10, and their grade improved all the way through to in year 11 this year. Now, what we ask teachers to timestamp this grade, or to change this grade, update the grade once every 45 school days at least. So you should see quite a lot of, if you hover over it, you'll see when the teacher went in there and decided that grade was still correct. It's live. As soon as the teacher does it, you're able to actually see it. Sorry, it's not there. So this gives us all together, it gives us a rich piece of information about how your children are doing. So on top of this, what we're going to do, in the previous years, we've done reflections at the end of first term and the end of third term, and got your children to write a reflection on how the work had been going. That's going to change now. We're going to change the reflections into a student action plan. So the main difference is this is going to be forward looking. Now, I want to encourage conversations between your child and the teacher as much as possible. Now, what happens in the lesson, some lessons like art or design lessons, your children will get feedback every single lesson as they're working through their portfolio or on their project. Some of the lessons, that's not so cut and dried. And sometimes it's if your child is very confident in going up to the teacher and asking for help all the time, then they'll get feedback every single lesson. But sometimes students who are quite quiet may be saying, yeah, I'm fine, and not getting enough feedback because they're not communicating. So I really want to encourage a communication between your child and the teacher, focused around forward looking, what targets can they set themselves, or what do they need to do to improve specific skills, knowledge and understanding in that subject. And I want it to be as specific as possible. I'll be talking to teachers next week about this, because this is a slight change than what we did last year. So they need to do this in every subject. So I'm going to ask them to do it make sure it's done in every subject by December, by the end of the year. So you as teachers can have a look, you as parents can look into this and say, that's what they should be working on. That's how to improve in that particular subject. So you're getting some rich information. You haven't got to wait till parents' evening or reports or reflections. This is going to be forward-looking statement, which are edited as targets are met. So this is what they're working on right now. So I'm going to ask you as parents for feedback at the end of the year to see how well it went, so we can tweak what we've got then. Also, we've got self-management skills, which you would have had seen in year 7 to 9. I'm not going to spend long on this, but this is and what called the ATL target, a learning target to be to manage yourself, to have self-discipline, including all those things there. And you can see in different subjects whether they've got full 6 stars or there's some things missing, like this student here is not handling working in time in design technology. Again, we're going to make sure teachers are updating this as relevant, and it will look like that. What else you're working on is that your children's tutors would have been working on ATL skills development. ATL skills are transferable skills. It's very important to build these skills throughout your school life and life in general, because these are learning skills. And your children would have, you'll see it on the form there, would have been working on their ATL focus at the start of the year. So if you haven't seen that, ask your children to show you what ATL focus they decided at the start of the year. Here's an example here of a student deciding critical thinking. In year 10, they're encouraged to stick to the ATL skills which are highlighted there. Some examples. I'm going to share this video with you so you have time to go through it. And I'll share a PDF of the presentation as well. So what would have happened is those ATL targets on the screen there, a certain student would have decided that's their 3 ATL focuses for the first term. And they'll apply those ATL focuses to different subjects. And then at the end of the year, they'll do a reflection on what ATL skills were developed. So just one ATL reflection, and they can talk about how they develop that skill in different subjects. And that will be through the tutoring program we do here. Now, I think that is it. So I'm going to just stop that presentation and see if we've got any questions. So I've got a question here. Is the school able to share with parents which exam boards you're using for different subjects? Of course, I'll make sure that happens. I think we do have it on the year 11, I think year 10 and 11 exams website, but I'm not sure I've sent you that, but I'll make sure. That's a good question. Thank you. My daughter's biology teacher's posted the entire curriculum on Google Classroom in a spreadsheet. Is it possible to get this for every subject? So these are in science. I know they do this because I'm a science teacher. Is they put the curriculum, the syllabus, as you call it, in what's called a batch sheet. So they break it down bit by bit. All it is the syllabus, and it's just put into a spreadsheet. For other subjects, you will have the syllabus to look at. If you want, if your child has not got the syllabus for the subject, they need it. Absolutely need it. I remember doing some work with a company called Elevate on revision skills, and that's the first thing they say. Don't even go anywhere in terms of your learning without the syllabus and the subject, because that tells you exactly what you need to know, and it links to everything, all the resources you've got. So make sure your child has the syllabus. It will be there. It will be on Google Classroom somewhere. If it's not, let the teacher know, but they have to have the syllabus. I tell my students, because I've got a year 10 class, to use what are called CPG books. I can send you the links for those as well, which is the syllabus with a bit more extra information about some diagrams and things explaining the syllabus. That's the kind of level up from the syllabus you can use as well. But many, or most, if not all subjects will have a syllabus and CPG books to go with those syllabus. Let's get you one here. If I can get one quickly. I knew that wouldn't work. I must have taken it somewhere else. So yeah, so drop me a line if you need that from different subjects. If your child can't find it, we'll make sure we have. I got something in the chat. Can the personal assessment details be shared externally? I imagine that is the baseline data? Can it be shared externally? No, we don't share it externally. We don't give anyone our baseline data. It's totally internal. The only people I've shared externally is with you. We have a data policy to say, if we collect any data on your children, we have to share it with you. Okay, how many hours on average daily basis should the student be spending studying at this point in their journey? We asked this question actually of parents. We asked it of teachers and students not long ago. We really recognise that your children have a packed extracurricular program and some have tutors. We would say about, for each subject, I would say about once per week or once per cycle. Maybe at year 10, it should be around about 45 minutes for each homework. So around about 45 minutes, an hour a night, certainly no more than 2 hours a night, because 6 hours in school, extracurricular activities or tutoring and 2 hours homework is an awful lot to do. There is nothing really that they need to do at home. The teacher will make sure if there is some homework that they give and that is actually relevant to the course and actually needed to do that work. And we tell teachers not to set excessive homework or homework for the sake of homework. We really don't want that to happen. So I'd say maximum 2 hours a night, between an hour and 2 hours a night. If it's fine to drop GCSE subjects midway, it's not impossible, but it's not recommended. You can't just drop GCSE subjects. From a timetable point of view, what would they do when they drop that subject? They couldn't really pick another subject up midway through. So the answer to that, straight answer is no. Sometimes, very, very rare circumstances, they do, if there's another classroom to go in, like a support classroom to go in. But you should talk to the Learning Support Department, Maria Woods, if that's the case. Other students working at grades at the end of year 10 considers the grades that are submitted to US universities part of their transcript. It's a very good question, actually. So if you leave West End School at the end of year 10, that the working at grade will be on your grade transcript. Universities are going to get the GCSE transcripts, they'll get GCSE scores if you complete your GCSEs. So it will appear on the transcript if you haven't completed your GCSEs. So think of it more like a grade point average in the US system. So this is what I'm going to talk to teachers about, making sure that that grade is consistent all the way through, but it also means that your children are going to need to keep their grades up to get this average, if you like, grade point average consistent. And I think that is all of the questions I've got. So I think there's a feedback form that will go to you after this. Please fill it out so we can improve webinars in the future. Sorry about the glitch at the start. Hopefully it didn't detract too much from what we had to say. If you do need anything or want to ask any questions, do get in touch with me, Mike Williams at wis.edu.hk. And that's about it. So thank you very much and see you around. Bye-bye now.